My folks finally confessed they pawned off my vehicle just to bail out my brother. The words hung in the kitchen air like a death sentence, while Brandon leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed, watching me with that same entitled smirk he'd worn his entire life. Mom couldn't even look at me as she wiped the same spot on the counter over and over, the dishcloth moving in nervous circles. Dad stood by the window, jaw tight, waiting for me to explode like I always did when Brandon screwed up and they cleaned up his mess. I didn't explode. Instead, I set my coffee mug down carefully on the table, the ceramic making a soft click that somehow felt louder than screaming. The Toyota? The one I just paid off last month? My voice came out steady, almost curious. Brandon's smirk faltered for just a second. He'd expected tears, accusations, the usual family drama that ended with me storming out and them consoling him for having such an unreasonable sister. Mom's dishcloth stopped moving. Sophia, honey, we didn't have a choice. Brandon was in jail and the bail was $15,000. We couldn't just leave him there. What did he do this time? I asked, looking directly at my brother for the first time since they'd dropped this bomb. Brandon pushed off the doorframe, shoulders straightening. DUI, but it wasn't my fault. The cop had it out for me. Third DUI. Dad corrected quietly, and I watched my brother's face flush red. He would have lost his job if we didn't get him out fast. I nodded slowly, like I was processing this information for the first time. Like I hadn't already known about Brandon's arrest 2 weeks ago. Like I hadn't already known they'd sold my car the same day he was arrested, signing the title over to some cash for cars operation that gave them a fraction of what it was worth. Like I hadn't spent the past 14 days making very specific phone calls and gathering very particular documents, while they lied to my face every single time I asked where my vehicle was. You signed my name on the title transfer, I said, still in that same calm voice. Mom's face went white. Dad turned from the window, suddenly very interested in his shoes. Brandon, however, laughed. Actually laughed. Come on, Soph. It's not like you can't get another car. You've got that fancy marketing job downtown. I'm barely making ends meet at the warehouse. He moved closer, and I could smell the beer on his breath even though it was 10 in the morning. Besides, family helps family, right? That's what Mom and Dad taught us. I stood up, smoothing down my skirt, and watched all three of them tense, but I just smiled. You're right, family helps family. I picked up my coffee mug, rinsed it in the sink while Mom watched with confused, hopeful eyes. I need to get to work. Jesse's picking me up in 10 minutes. Jesse? Mom's voice pitched higher. Your coworker, Jesse? My boyfriend, Jesse, I corrected, drying my hands on the towel. We've been dating for 6 months. You would have met him if you'd ever invited me to Sunday dinners anymore. I looked pointedly at Brandon, who'd somehow become the permanent guest of honor at every family gathering since his second divorce. The kitchen went silent except for the drip of the faucet. Sophia, we're sorry about the car, Dad finally said, stepping toward me with his hands raised like he was approaching a spooked horse. We'll pay you back. It'll just take some time. How much time? I asked. Brandon's bail was $15,000. The car was worth $12,000. Did you pay the difference out of pocket? Dad's hands dropped. Mom started crying, quiet little gasps that used to make me crumble every single time. Brandon, ever the tactful one, groaned. Jesus, here we go. You're gonna hold this over us forever, aren't you? I looked at my little brother, 32 years old, and still acting like the world owed him everything. Still protected by parents who'd remortgaged their house twice to cover his debts, who'd stolen from their daughter to save their son. Again. No, I said softly, slinging my purse over my shoulder. I'm not going to hold anything over anyone. A horn honked outside. Through the window, I saw Jesse's silver sedan, the one I'd been borrowing for 2 weeks while my family lied to me about my car being in the shop, the one I'd driven here this morning specifically for this conversation. I have to go, I said, heading for the door. Sophia, wait. Mom grabbed my arm, her fingers desperate and cold. Please don't be angry. We didn't know what else to do. I gently extracted my arm from her grip. I'm not angry, Mom. I'm just disappointed. The words hung there, the same ones they'd said to me countless times growing up whenever I got a B instead of an A, whenever I chose art class over soccer, whenever I didn't measure up to their perfect vision of who I should be. Funny how different those words sounded coming from me. Brandon scoffed as I reached the door. You'll get over it. You always do. I paused, my hand on the doorknob, and looked back at my little brother one last time. He stood there in our parents' kitchen, wearing yesterday's clothes, reeking of beer and entitlement, completely confident that this would blow over like every other time he'd screwed up and I'd eventually forgiven him. You're right, I said. I always do. His smile returned, wide and victorious. I didn't smile back. I just walked out, closing the door softly behind me, listening to the click of the latch with the same satisfaction I'd felt setting down my coffee mug. Behind me, I heard Mom crying harder, Dad trying to comfort her, and Brandon saying something dismissive that I didn't bother to catch. Jesse was waiting by the car, his face concerned. How'd it go? Exactly as expected, I said, sliding into the passenger seat. As he pulled away from my childhood home, I pulled out my phone and opened the folder I'd titled Documentation. Photos of the forged title transfer. Recordings of phone calls where I'd explicitly told them not to touch my car. The paper trail of texts from Brandon asking our parents to just handle it because he couldn't deal with another night in jail. You okay? Jesse asked, reaching over to squeeze my hand. I looked at him, this man who'd watched me systematically prepare for this moment for 2 weeks, who'd helped me document everything, who'd driven me around without asking questions, because he trusted that I knew what I was doing. I'm perfect, I said, and I meant it. Because Brandon was right about one thing. I always did get over it. But this time, getting over it meant getting even. And I'd been planning this for a lot longer than 2 weeks. My phone buzzed with a text from Lucas, my lawyer friend. Just 3 words. We're all set. I typed back. Monday morning, 9 a.m. Jesse glanced at the phone, then at me. You're really doing this. They forged my signature on a legal document, I said calmly. That's fraud. And Brandon violated his bail conditions yesterday when he showed up drunk at my apartment to talk things out. I pulled up the doorbell camera footage, timestamp clearly visible, showing my brother stumbling and slurring threats about how I'd better not make this harder on Mom and Dad than it needed to be. Jesus, Jesse breathed. Family helps family, I repeated, echoing Brandon's words. They taught me that. They just never specified which family members I'd be helping to destroy. Monday morning arrived with unseasonable cold. I sat in Lucas's office downtown, watching him review the documents spread across his mahogany desk. Jesse had taken the day off to be here, his hand warm on my knee while Lucas flipped through photo after photo of the forged title transfer. This is textbook forgery, Lucas said, adjusting his glasses. Your signature doesn't match any of your legal documents. They didn't even try to make it convincing. He looked up at me, his expression serious. You understand what happens if we file charges? This isn't small claims court, Sophia. Your parents could face felony fraud charges. I understand. Lucas leaned back in his chair. And Brandon's bail violation? I pulled up the doorbell footage on my phone, turning it so he could see. Brandon stumbling, pointing at the camera, his words slurred but clear. You better not fuck this up for me, Sophia. Mom and Dad need me, and you're just being a selfish bitch like always. Jesse flinched beside me. He'd heard it before, but it clearly still bothered him. Lucas watched the entire 2-minute video, then nodded slowly. His bail conditions explicitly forbid alcohol consumption and contact with potential witnesses. This violates both. He made a note on his legal pad. I'll file the motion to revoke bail this afternoon. The fraud charges will take longer to build, but with this evidence, we can move fast. How fast? He could be back in custody by Wednesday. Something cold and satisfying settled in my chest. Do it. After we left Lucas's office, Jesse drove me to work. But neither of us said much. Finally, at a red light, he turned to me. Are you sure about this? Once you start, there's no going back. They stole my car, Jesse. They forged my name. And Brandon threatened me. I looked out the window at the city passing by. This isn't about revenge. It's about consequences they've avoided their entire lives. That wasn't entirely true, and we both knew it. But Jesse squeezed my hand anyway. Work was a blur of marketing reports and client calls. Around 2 p.m., my phone rang. Mom. I let it go to voicemail. Then she called again, and again. By the 5th call, I answered. Sophia. Thank God. Mom's voice was frantic. The police just called. They're saying Brandon violated his bail. They're going to arrest him again. That's unfortunate, I said, typing an email with my free hand. Unfortunate? Sophia, he could go to jail for months. They said something about witness intimidation. Do you know anything about this? I stopped typing. Why would I know anything about Brandon's legal problems? Silence. Then, you didn't. Didn't what, Mom? You reported him for coming to your apartment. Her voice shifted from frantic to accusatory. He was just trying to apologize, and you called the police on your own brother? He showed up drunk, violated his bail conditions, and threatened me on camera. I documented it and gave it to the appropriate authorities. I kept my voice level, professional. That's what you're supposed to do when someone breaks the law. He's your brother. And you're my mother, but that didn't stop you from forging my signature. The line went dead silent. I could hear her breathing, harsh and quick. I don't know what you're talking about, she finally said. The title transfer, Mom. The signature isn't mine. You know it, I know it, and soon the district attorney will know it. The sound she made was somewhere between a gasp and a sob. You wouldn't. Sophia, we raised you better than this. You raised me to stand up for myself and not let people take advantage of me, I said. I'm just applying those lessons. Your father and I could go to jail. Yes. Another silence, longer this time. When Mom spoke again, her voice had gone cold in a way I'd never heard before. I see. This is who you really are then. Willing to destroy your own family over a car. Not over a car, I corrected. Over fraud, forgery, and a pattern of enabling that's been going on for 32 years. But you can frame it however helps you sleep at night. I hung up before she could respond. Jessie appeared in my office doorway 5 minutes later with coffee. Heard yelling through the door. Your mom? She knows about the bail violation. I accepted the coffee gratefully. She'll tell Dad and Brandon within the hour. Things are going to get ugly. Uglier than forging your signature and stealing your car? I smiled despite everything. Good point. By 5 p.m., my phone had 17 missed calls. Mom, Dad, and a number I didn't recognize that had to be Brandon calling from someone else's phone. I blocked all 3 numbers and went home. Jessie came over that night with Thai food and wine. We ate on my couch while I tried not to check my email every 30 seconds. Around 9 p.m., my building's front desk called. Ms. Sophia, there's a Brandon Reynolds here to see you. He says he's your brother. My heart kicked up a notch. Tell him I'm not available and that he needs to leave the property immediately. If he refuses, call the police. There was muffled conversation. Then the desk attendant came back. He's leaving, but he wanted me to give you a message. He says to tell you that you're making the biggest mistake of your life. Noted. Thank you, Maria. Jessie was already on his phone. I'm texting Lucas. Brandon just violated his bail conditions again by trying to contact you. Good. I pulled up my building's security app, watching the lobby camera as Brandon stood there arguing with Maria for another minute before finally stalking out. I saved the footage, sent it to Lucas, and added it to my documentation folder. He's panicking, Jessie observed, watching over my shoulder. He should be. I zoomed in on Brandon's face in the footage, catching the moment when he realized Maria was about to call the cops. Pure fear. He's finally understanding that this isn't going away. Wednesday morning, Lucas called while I was getting ready for work. Brandon's back in custody. The judge revoked his bail based on the 2 violation incidents. He's looking at extended jail time now, and that's before we even touch the original DUI charges. What about the fraud case? I'm meeting with the DA's office Friday. With the evidence you've provided, they're very interested, especially because this affects both your parents. He paused. Sophia, I have to ask one more time. Are you absolutely certain you want to pursue charges against your parents? The DA is willing to move forward with just Brandon if you'd prefer to keep your parents out of it. I thought about Mom's cold voice on the phone. This is who you really are. I thought about Dad standing by the window, unable to even look at me. I thought about every time they'd chosen Brandon over me, every time they'd expected me to be the bigger person, every time they'd made his problems my responsibility. File against all 3 of them, I said. That evening, Jasmine stopped by my apartment. We'd been best friends since college, and she was the only person besides Jessie who knew the full extent of what was happening. Your dad called me, she said, settling onto my couch with a bottle of wine she'd brought. He wanted me to talk some sense into you. I poured us both a glass. What did you tell him? That you're the most sensible person I know, and maybe he should have thought about consequences before committing fraud. She clinched her glass against mine. He did not appreciate that. I'm sure he didn't. Jasmine studied me carefully. How are you really doing with all this? Honestly, I feel lighter than I have in years. I curled up in the armchair across from her. My whole life, I've been cleaning up Brandon's messes, lending him money he never paid back, covering his shifts, lying to his girlfriends, making excuses for why he couldn't show up to things. And my parents just enabled all of it, expected me to enable it too. And now I'm done. I took a sip of wine. Let me ask you something. If someone who wasn't related to me forged my signature and stole $12,000 from me, what would you tell me to do? Press charges immediately. Exactly. So why should it be different just because we share DNA? Jasmine nodded slowly. Your mom called me too, you know. She said you've changed, that you've become cold. What do you think? She looked at me for a long moment. I think you've stopped setting yourself on fire to keep them warm, and they're mad because now they're cold. Friday afternoon, Lucas called again. DA's moving forward with fraud charges against your parents. They'll be arraigned next week. His voice was careful. There's still time to drop this, Sophia. Once they're formally charged, this becomes public record. Everyone will know. Good, I said. Let everyone know what they did. That night, my phone rang from a number I did recognize. Anna, my aunt, my mom's sister. Sophia Marie, what the hell is wrong with you? She demanded the second I answered. Your mother is beside herself. She could go to prison because you're throwing a tantrum over a car? Aunt Anna, no, you listen to me. Family doesn't destroy family like this. Your brother made a mistake, yes, but your parents were just trying to help him. And now you're going to ruin all their lives because you're selfish and petty? Something in me snapped. Did Mom tell you they forged my signature? That they committed a felony? Or did she just tell you I'm being unreasonable? Anna hesitated. She said you were being difficult about the car situation. The car situation is fraud, Aunt Anna. They didn't borrow my car, they sold it. They signed my name to legal documents without my permission. That's a crime. But surely you could just what? Let it go? Forgive them? How many times am I supposed to forgive Brandon? This is his third DUI. Third. How many times are we supposed to bail him out before we let him face actual consequences? He has a problem, Sophia. He needs help, not jail. Then they should have gotten him help after the first DUI. Or the second. Instead, they enabled him, and now here we are. I was pacing now, unable to sit still. And I'm done being part of that cycle. You're going to regret this, Anna said quietly. When your parents are sitting in a cell, when your brother is in prison, when your whole family is torn apart, you're going to regret destroying everything over money. This isn't about money. This is about 30 years of being second place to Brandon's constant emergencies. This is about being expected to sacrifice everything while he sacrifices nothing. This is about them choosing him over me one too many times. So this is revenge. No, I said firmly. This is justice. There's a difference. Anna hung up on me. Jesse found me an hour later, sitting on my balcony in the dark, staring out at the city lights. He didn't say anything, just sat down next to me and pulled me against his chest. Anna called me, too, he finally said. Told me I should talk you out of this, that I was a bad influence. Despite everything, I laughed. You tried to talk me out of it multiple times. I told her that. She didn't care. He pressed a kiss to the top of my head. Your Uncle Sean also called, and someone named Ashley who claimed to be your second cousin. Let me guess. They all think I'm a monster. Pretty much. He was quiet for a moment. Does that bother you? I thought about it, really thought about it. Did it bother me that my extended family thought I was cruel and vindictive? That they were all rallying around my parents and Brandon, painting me as the villain in this story? No, I realized, because they don't know the whole truth. And even if they did, they'd probably still choose Brandon. That's what they've always done. Not everyone, Jesse reminded me gently. Jasmine's on your side. Lucas, me. Joseph from your office sent you that supportive text yesterday. He was right. The people who really knew me, who understood the full situation, supported my decision. Everyone else was operating on the sanitized version my parents had fed them. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. You won. I hope you're happy. Your family is destroyed, and it's all your fault. Brandon. I showed it to Jesse, who immediately screenshotted it. That's witness intimidation. Lucas needs to see this. He's texting from jail, I realized. Someone else's phone. Which means he's violating even more rules. Jesse was already forwarding the screenshot to Lucas. He really doesn't know when to stop, does he? I looked at the message again. You won. But I hadn't won anything yet. The arraignment was next week. The trial could take months. Brandon could take a plea deal. My parents could get probation, but Brandon thought this was over. He thought the worst had already happened. He had no idea what was actually coming. The weekend before my parents' arraignment, I did something I hadn't done in months. I went to Sunday dinner at their house. Jesse thought I was crazy. They could try something, he warned as he drove me there. Your dad could get physical. Your mom could record you saying something they could use. That's why you're coming with me, I said, checking my phone one more time. The recording app was ready. And why I'm not going inside. We're staying on the porch. The house looked the same as always. Dad's truck in the driveway, Mom's garden gnomes lining the walkway, the porch light that flickered because Dad kept saying he'd fix it, but never did. Except now there was a for sale sign planted in the front yard. Jesse saw it the same time I did. They're selling the house. They're going to need money for lawyers, I said, climbing out of the car. Good lawyers are expensive. Mom opened the door before I could knock, her face haggard and years older than when I'd seen her 2 weeks ago. Sophia, I didn't think you'd actually come. You asked me to. I stayed on the porch. Jesse, a solid presence beside me. Said you wanted to talk before the arraignment. Come inside, Mom said, already turning back into the house. No, we'll talk here. She froze, then slowly turned back around. You don't trust us. Should I? Dad appeared behind her, and I barely recognized him. His face was gray, his eyes sunken. He looked like he'd aged a decade. Sophia, please. Just give us 5 minutes. Inside, like a family. We can talk right here, I repeated. Say whatever you came to say. Mom's face crumpled. How can you be so cold? We're your parents. You forged my signature and stole my car, I said evenly. I'm not sure you get to play the family card anymore. We made a mistake. Dad's voice cracked. One mistake and you're going to destroy us for it? One mistake? I pulled out my phone, scrolling through the documentation folder. Should we talk about the time you borrowed $5,000 from my savings when I was 19 to pay Brandon's gambling debts? Or when you used my credit card to bail him out of his second DUI? Or the time you told his ex-wife that I'd cover his child support while he got back on his feet? Both of them stared at me. You thought I didn't know, I said quietly. You thought I was too young, too trusting, too eager to please. And I was. But I kept records. I've been keeping records since I was 16 years old. Mom's hand flew to her mouth. Dad just looked defeated. $32,000, I continued. That's how much you've taken from me over the years for Brandon. And I never said a word. I just let it happen because I thought that's what family did. I put my phone away. But the car was different. You didn't ask. You didn't even tell me. You just took it and committed fraud to do it. We'll pay you back, Dad said desperately. All of it. Every penny. Just drop the charges, Sophia. Please. With what money? You're selling the house to afford lawyers. I gestured to the sign. Even if you sell it, that money's going to legal fees, not repaying me. Then what do you want? Mom demanded, anger finally breaking through the tears. You want us to beg? Fine. I'm begging. Please don't do this. Please don't send us to jail. We're sorry. We're so sorry. I studied my mother's face, looking for genuine remorse. All I saw was fear of consequences. If I drop the charges, I said slowly, what happens to Brandon? They exchanged a glance. Dad cleared his throat. He's taking a plea deal, 18 months in county, 3 years probation. And after that, he'll move back here, Mom said quickly. We'll help him get on his feet, find a new job. So nothing changes, I interrupted. He does his time, comes back, and you start the cycle all over again. Enabling him, cleaning up his messes, sacrificing everything to protect him from his own choices. He's our son, Dad said, like that explained everything. I'm your daughter. My voice came out harder than I intended. But you never protected me like that. You never forged documents for me, never sacrificed for me, never put me first. That's not fair, Mom whispered. Isn't it? I looked between them. Name one time you chose me over Brandon. One time you put my needs before his wants. Silence. Jesse shifted beside me, and I felt his hand find mine. The small gesture of support gave me the strength to continue. I'm not dropping the charges, I said. Monday morning, you'll be arraigned on fraud and forgery charges. You'll probably get a plea deal too. First-time offenders usually do. Probation, restitution, community service. But it'll be on your record forever. Sophia, Dad started. I'm not finished. I stepped closer to the door, close enough to see the fear in their eyes. After this is over, I don't want any contact. No calls, no texts, no showing up at my apartment or my job. You want to focus on Brandon? Fine. Do it. But I'm done being part of this family. Mom started crying again, ugly sobs that shook her whole body. Dad wrapped an arm around her, but his eyes never left my face. You'll regret this, he said quietly. One day, you'll realize what you've done, and you'll regret it. Maybe, I acknowledged, but at least I'll regret my own choices, not spend my whole life enabling someone else's. I turned to leave, but Mom's voice stopped me. What about when we die? When we're gone and you're all alone and Brandon's all you have left? I looked back at her. Then I'll be alone, and I'll prefer that to this. Jesse and I walked back to the car in silence. I didn't look back at the house, didn't watch to see if they were still standing on the porch. I just got in the car and let Jesse drive me away. You okay? He asked after several blocks. I don't know, I admitted. I thought I'd feel something. Satisfaction, maybe, or sadness. But I just feel empty. That's normal. He reached over and squeezed my hand. You just set a boundary that you've needed to set for years. It's going to feel weird. My phone buzzed. A text from Jasmine. Amy just called me. She's on your parents' side. Said you're breaking up the family. I typed back. The family broke itself. Monday morning arrived too fast and too slow at the same time. I sat in the courthouse gallery with Jesse and Jasmine, watching my parents stand before the judge in clothes I'd never seen them wear before. Mom in a navy dress that looked borrowed. Dad in a suit that didn't quite fit. Their lawyer, some public defender who looked about 12, negotiated a plea deal. Guilty to fraud and forgery, 18 months probation, $10,000 restitution split between them, 300 hours community service each. The judge accepted it. Just like that, it was over. Except it wasn't over, because as my parents turned to leave the courtroom, Mom's eyes found mine across the gallery. The look she gave me was pure hatred, cold and sharp as a knife. Dad just looked broken. They really thought you'd back down, Jasmine whispered. Right up until the end, they thought you'd give in. I know. Outside the courthouse, reporters were waiting. Apparently, a fraud case involving family members made for good local news. I watched from a distance as my parents pushed through the cameras, Dad shielding Mom, both of them refusing to comment. Then I saw him. Brandon, flanked by 2 guards, being led from a transport van into the courthouse for his own hearing. He saw me too. Even across the parking lot, I could feel his fury. He said something to one of the guards, pointing at me. The guard shook his head, but Brandon yanked free anyway, starting toward me before the other guard grabbed him. You destroyed them! He screamed across the parking lot. My parents did nothing wrong, and you destroyed them! The guards were pulling him back, but he kept screaming. I hope you're happy, Sophia. I hope this was worth it. You'll die alone, and no one will care. Cameras swiveled toward me. A reporter started approaching, microphone ready. Jesse stepped in front of me. No comment. We're leaving. In the car, my hands were shaking. Not from fear, from adrenaline, from the sheer surreal nature of watching my family implode in a courthouse parking lot on the morning news. That's going to be online in an hour, Jasmine said from the back seat, scrolling through her phone. Someone already posted it on social media? Let them, I said, surprised by how steady my voice sounded. Let everyone see exactly who Brandon is. And they did. By that evening, the video of Brandon screaming at me outside the courthouse had been viewed 50,000 times. The comments were split, half calling me a heartless monster for destroying my family, half calling Brandon a spoiled man-child who deserved everything he got. My phone exploded with messages from relatives I hadn't spoken to in years, all of them weighing in on what I should have done differently. I blocked every single one of them and turned off my phone. "You should eat something," Jessie said, setting a plate of pasta in front of me. I looked at the food, my stomach churning. "I'm not hungry." "You haven't eaten all day." "I know, I pushed the plate away. I thought I'd feel victorious. Instead, I just feel numb. Jessie sat down across from me. "Want to know what I think? Always. I think you're grieving. You just lost your family, even if they deserve to be lost. That's allowed to hurt. They don't deserve my grief," I said, but my voice cracked on the last word. "Maybe not, but you deserve to feel whatever you're feeling." He reached across the table, taking my hand. "You did the right thing, Sophia. That doesn't mean it has to feel good." I nodded, not trusting myself to speak. That night, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, thinking about Mom's face in the courtroom, about Dad looking broken, about Brandon screaming across the parking lot, about the family I used to have, before I realized they'd never really been mine at all. My phone buzzed with one final message before I fell asleep. From Lucas. "Brandon's hearing went badly. Judge gave him 3 years instead of 18 months. Apparently screaming at witnesses in the parking lot didn't help his case. Thought you'd want to know." I read it 3 times before I finally felt something break loose in my chest. It wasn't sadness. It wasn't guilt. It was satisfaction, cold and complete. 3 years. My parents on probation. All of them branded as criminals. I'd won, and I wasn't sorry. 3 months later, I was standing in my new apartment, the one I'd rented in a different part of the city, with better security and zero memories of my old life, when Jessie called with news. "Your dad had a heart attack." I froze, a box of books still in my hands. "What?" "Anna called me. She said he collapsed at work yesterday. He's in the hospital, stable but serious." Jessie's voice was careful, neutral. "She wanted me to tell you because she figured you'd blocked her number." I did. I set the box down, my mind racing. "Is he going to be okay?" "They think so. But Anna said your mom is asking for you, wants you to come to the hospital." I walked to the window, looking out at the city skyline. Somewhere out there, my father was lying in a hospital bed, possibly dying. My mother was probably sitting beside him, looking small and scared and alone. "Sophia," Jessie's voice pulled me back. "What do you want to do?" "Nothing," I heard myself say. "I want to do nothing." Silence on the other end of the line. "I know how that sounds," I continued. "But if I go there, if I show up at that hospital, Mom will think it means I'm ready to reconcile. She'll think this changes things." "Does it?" I thought about my father. He'd taught me to ride a bike, helped me with homework, walked me down the aisle at my wedding to a man I'd divorced 2 years later. He'd also chosen Brandon over me 1,000 times, looked me in the eye and lied about my car, stood silent while Mom forged my signature. "No," I said. "It doesn't change anything." "Okay." No judgment in Jessie's voice, just acceptance. "Do you want me to come over?" "Yeah, please." He arrived 20 minutes later with Indian food and that quiet presence that made him so easy to love. We ate in silence for a while before he finally spoke. "You know people are going to crucify you for this, right? Not visiting your father in the hospital?" "I know." I pushed rice around my plate. "Anna will make sure everyone knows. I'll be the heartless daughter who let her father almost die alone." "Will you be able to live with that?" I thought about it honestly. "Yeah, because I know the truth. Dad's not alone. Mom is there. And if he wanted me there, he could have called himself. But he didn't. Anna did." Jessie nodded slowly. "What if he dies? What if this is your last chance to what?" "Forgive him." I set down my fork. "Jessie, if he dies, I'll grieve. I'll mourn the father he could have been, the father I wanted him to be, but I won't regret standing my ground. I can't." My phone started buzzing. Anna, calling from different numbers because I kept blocking her. Then my cousin Amy. Then Sean. My entire extended family activating like a phone tree of guilt and judgment. I turned my phone off completely. They're relentless, Jesse observed. They think if they pressure me enough, I'll crack. Go running to the hospital, sobbing and apologizing, ready to forgive everything. I leaned back against the couch. That's what the old Sophia would have done. And the new Sophia? The new Sophia remembers that Dad had 3 months to reach out, 3 months to apologize, to try to make things right. He chose silence. I met Jesse's eyes. So now I'm choosing it too. 2 days later, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. Against my better judgment, I answered. Sophia, it's Joseph, from work. I relaxed slightly. Hey, Joseph, what's up? I just got a weird call from someone claiming to be your mom. She was trying to get your new address from me. His voice was uncomfortable. I didn't give it to her, but I thought you should know she's looking for you. My blood ran cold. What did she say? That your dad was in the hospital and she needed to talk to you urgently. She sounded pretty desperate. He paused. Are you okay? Do you need anything? I'm fine. Thanks for not giving her my address. I rubbed my temples. If she calls back, just hang up. Will do. Take care of yourself, Sophia. After I hung up, I called the building manager and updated my security instructions. No visitors without advance approval. No one gets my apartment number. If anyone claiming to be family shows up, call me immediately. Jesse found me an hour later, sitting on the floor with my laptop, going through emails. What are you doing? Making sure all my accounts have 2-factor authentication. Changing my security questions. Updating my emergency contacts. I didn't look up from the screen. Mom's trying to find me. I need to lock everything down. Sophia. Jesse knelt beside me, gently closing the laptop. This is getting paranoid. Is it? She forged my signature once. What's to stop her from doing it again? I pulled away from him, standing up. I can't let my guard down, not now. Your dad's in the hospital. She's scared and desperate. That doesn't mean she's plotting against you. Doesn't it? I turned to face him. You don't know her like I do. When Mom feels cornered, she gets creative. And right now, she's very cornered. Jesse stood too, his face conflicted. I'm on your side. You know that. But I'm worried you're letting this consume you. It's not consuming me. It's protecting me. From what? Your father's literally in intensive care. And that's tragic. It is. But it doesn't undo the fraud, Jesse. It doesn't undo 30 years of enabling Brandon. It doesn't undo any of it. My voice was rising. And if I let my guard down now, if I go soft because Dad's sick, they'll use that. Mom will use that. And we'll be right back where we started. Jesse held up his hands. Okay, you're right, I'm sorry. I took a breath, forcing myself to calm down. No, I'm sorry. I'm stressed. I know. He pulled me into a hug. But maybe consider therapy? Someone to talk to who isn't me? I almost laughed. Are you tired of being my emotional support? Never. But I think a professional might help you process all this better than I can. He was probably right. But the thought of sitting in some therapist's office, explaining my family situation, defending my choices to yet another person who'd probably think I was cruel, it was exhausting just thinking about it. I'll think about it, I lied. That weekend, Anna showed up at my office. I was in a client meeting when my assistant buzzed in. Sophia, there's a woman in the lobby who says she's your aunt. She's quite insistent about seeing you. I excused myself from the meeting, my heart pounding. Sure enough, Anna sat in our lobby, looking tired and angry in equal measure. We need to talk, she said when she saw me. I'm in a meeting. I don't care. She stood, crossing her arms. Your father could die, Sophia. Do you understand that? He could die and you haven't even called. People in the lobby were starting to stare. My assistant looked alarmed. This isn't the place, I said quietly. Then where? You won't answer your phone? You've blocked everyone. You've disappeared. Anna's voice was getting louder. What kind of person does that? What kind of daughter abandons her father in the hospital? The kind whose father forged her signature and stole from her, I said, my voice deadly calm. The kind who's been second place her entire life. The kind who finally learned to put herself first. He made one mistake. Stop calling it one mistake. I was aware of my coworkers watching, of Joseph emerging from his office with a concerned expression. It wasn't one mistake. It was one crime. And it was the latest in a lifetime of choosing Brandon over me. So, this is revenge. No, this is self-preservation. I stepped closer to her, lowering my voice. You want to know why I haven't visited Dad? Because the second I walk into that hospital room, Mom will guilt me into dropping the restitution claim. She'll make me feel responsible for his stress, for his heart attack. She'll make it my fault, and I'll end up apologizing for enforcing consequences that they earned. Anna's face twisted. You've become someone I don't recognize. Good, because the person you knew was a doormat, and I'm done being walked on. If your father dies, then he dies, I interrupted, and I'll live with that. But I won't compromise my boundaries to make you feel better about enabling a family that's been toxic for decades. Anna stared at me like I was a stranger. Maybe I was. Maybe the Sophia she knew had died the moment I decided to press charges. You'll burn in hell for this, she whispered. Probably, I agreed. But at least I'll burn free. She left, and I stood in the lobby, aware of everyone's eyes on me. Joseph approached carefully. You okay? Fine. I smoothed down my skirt, trying to look professional despite the confrontation that had just unfolded. I need to get back to my meeting, Sophia. He touched my arm gently. Take the rest of the day. Go home. That was a lot. He was right. I was shaking, adrenaline and anger coursing through me. Yeah, okay. Thanks. Jesse met me at my apartment, finding me on the balcony again, in what had become my thinking spot. He didn't say anything, just handed me a glass of wine and sat down beside me. Anna came to my office, I said eventually. I heard. Joseph called me. Everyone thinks I'm a monster. Not everyone. Jesse's hand found mine. The people who matter know you're not. What if they're right, though? The words came out small, uncertain. What if I am becoming someone cold and cruel? What if this revenge is turning me into everything I hate? Jesse was quiet for a long moment. Do you regret pressing charges? No. Do you think what your parents did was okay? No. Do you think Brandon deserves to face consequences for his actions? Yes. Then you're not a monster. You're just someone with boundaries. He squeezed my hand. And boundaries feel cruel to people who are used to violating them. I let that sink in, turning it over in my mind. Maybe he was right. Maybe I wasn't cruel. Maybe I was just finally standing up for myself in a way that felt harsh to people who'd never had to face real consequences before. My phone buzzed, a text from a number I didn't know. Your father's asking for you. Please come. Mom. I showed it to Jesse. My hand steady despite the turmoil in my chest. What are you going to do? He asked. I looked at the message for a long moment, thinking about my father in that hospital bed, thinking about all the times he'd chosen Brandon, all the times he'd looked the other way, all the times he could have stood up for me and didn't. Then I blocked the number and deleted the message. Nothing, I said. I'm going to do nothing, and for the first time since this whole nightmare began, that decision felt like power instead of cruelty. It felt like freedom. Dad was discharged from the hospital a week later. I knew because Jasmine told me. Apparently Anna was now calling everyone I knew, trying to find someone who could guilt me into contact. She said your dad wants to apologize, Jasmine reported over coffee, that he's had a come-to-Jesus moment and realizes what he did was wrong. Convenient timing, I said, stirring my latte, right before the restitution payments start. You're skeptical. I'm realistic. I set down the stirrer. Dad's had 3 months to apologize. He chose silence. Now that he's facing 10 grand in payments, suddenly he's seen the light? Please. Jasmine studied me. What if it's real? What if he genuinely regrets what happened? Then he can write me a letter. A real one, not some guilt trip designed to make me drop the restitution claim. I met her eyes. But he won't. Because he's not actually sorry. He's just sorry there are consequences. I was right. 2 weeks later, I received a letter from my parents' lawyer. Not from Dad, from their lawyer. Requesting a meeting to discuss potential modifications to the restitution agreement. I forwarded it to Lucas with a single line. Absolutely not. His response came within minutes. Already drafting the denial. They're trying to reduce the monthly payments. Claims financial hardship. They sold their house. I typed back, exactly what I told the court. The denial was filed that afternoon. My parents' request was rejected within days. That's when things escalated. Jesse and I were having dinner at my apartment when my building's front desk called. "Ms. Sophia, there's someone here claiming to be your mother. She's very upset and demanding to see you." My fork paused halfway to my mouth. "Tell her I'm not available." I did. "She's refusing to leave. She's saying she needs to talk to you about an emergency." I closed my eyes, frustration warring with something that might have been guilt. "Call the police if she doesn't leave voluntarily within 5 minutes." "Understood." Jesse was watching me carefully. "You okay?" "I will be." I set down my fork, suddenly not hungry. This was always going to happen. They were always going to push. My phone rang. Mom, from a new number I hadn't blocked yet. I answered, putting it on speaker. "Leave the building, Mom. Sophia, please, just 5 minutes. I need to talk to you about your father." "No, he's struggling, honey. The stress, the medical bills, the restitution payments. He can barely afford his medication." "Then you shouldn't have committed fraud." My voice was flat, emotionless. Mom's breath hitched. "How can you be so cold? This is your father we're talking about. The man who raised you, who loves you." "The man who stole from me," I corrected. "The man who chose Brandon over me for 30 years. That man." "We made a mistake. You committed a crime. There's a difference." I could see Jesse watching me, his expression concerned. "Now leave the building before the police escort you out." "Sophia?" I hung up, immediately blocking the new number. 10 minutes later, my phone rang again, the building's front desk. "Your mother has left the property, but she wanted me to give you a message. She said to tell you that your brother is getting out early. Good behavior." My stomach dropped. "When?" She didn't say. I thanked them and hung up, immediately calling Lucas. "Brandon's getting early release," I said without preamble. "I know. I got the notification this morning. He's out in 2 weeks." Lucas sounded apologetic. "He completed an anger management program and stayed out of trouble. The parole board approved it." 2 weeks. I stood up, started pacing. That's not enough time. Time for what? To prepare. I was already making a list in my head. "He's going to come after me, Lucas. The second he's out, he's going to try something. Hence why I'm filing for a restraining order tomorrow. Should be approved before his release date." That helped, marginally. But restraining orders were just paper. They didn't actually stop determined people. "What else can we do?" I asked. "Honestly, not much. Stay vigilant. Keep documenting everything. Don't engage if he tries to contact you." Lucas paused. "Sophia, I know this is scary, but Brandon knows he's on thin ice. One violation and he goes straight back to jail. He's not going to risk it." I wanted to believe that, but I knew my brother. I knew how he operated when he was angry, when he felt wronged. Logic and self-preservation went out the window. "Just get me that restraining order," I said. After I hung up, Jesse pulled me down onto the couch beside him. "We should talk about safety measures. Maybe you should stay at my place for a while when Brandon gets out. He knows where you live too. Then we go somewhere he doesn't know. A hotel, an Airbnb, something." Jesse's hand was warm on my knee. "I'm not letting you face this alone." I leaned against him, letting myself feel protected for just a moment. How did this become my life? 3 months ago, I was just normal. And now I'm hiding from my brother, estranged from my family, waiting for the other shoe to drop. 3 months ago, you were being stolen from and lied to. Jesse corrected gently. This might not feel normal, but at least it's honest. He had a point. The restraining order was approved 5 days before Brandon's release. Lucas hand-delivered it to the prison, making sure Brandon received it personally. The order was simple. No contact of any kind, no phone calls, no texts, no showing up at my home or workplace, 500 feet minimum distance at all times. He looked at it like I'd handed him a death warrant, Lucas reported. Just stared at it, then asked if you'd really signed off on it. What did you tell him? That you'd not only signed off on it, you'd requested it. He did not take that well. I could imagine. Brandon, who'd spent his whole life getting whatever he wanted, suddenly facing a legal document that said his sister wanted nothing to do with him. His ego must have taken a hit. Good. Release day came and went. I spent it at Jesse's apartment, both of us working from home, jumping at every unexpected sound. But nothing happened. No calls, no visits, no Brandon appearing out of nowhere. Maybe he's actually going to respect the restraining order, Jesse said that night over takeout. Maybe. But I didn't believe it. I was right not to. 3 days after his release, I was walking to my car after work when I saw him. Brandon, leaning against a vehicle 2 rows over, clearly waiting. The second our eyes met, he straightened, a smile spreading across his face. I immediately pulled out my phone, starting to record. You're violating the restraining order. I'm 510 feet away. He held up his phone, showing a distance measuring app. See, I looked it up. I'm in compliance. My heart was pounding, but I kept my voice steady. What do you want? Just to talk. Is that so unreasonable? He took a step closer, and I watched the number on his app change. 505 feet. We're family, Sophia. We should be able to have a conversation. We have nothing to talk about, don't we? Another step. 500 feet exactly. You destroyed our parents, got me sent to prison, ruined my life, and for what? A car? For fraud, for forgery, for 30 years of being treated like I don't matter. I was backing toward my car, keeping distance between us. And you're about to add violating a restraining order to your list of crimes. I'm in compliance, he repeated, but he stopped moving. You know what's funny? Mom and Dad are about to lose everything. The house sold, but after paying their lawyer and the restitution, there's barely anything left. Dad can't work full-time anymore because of his heart. Mom's picking up shifts at a diner. His smile widened. All because you couldn't let go of a grudge. All because they chose to commit a crime, I corrected. You could have let it go. You could have been the bigger person. But no. Perfect Sophia had to prove a point. He was getting agitated now, his voice rising. Do you even care what you've done to them? About as much as they cared about what they did to me. I reached my car, keys in hand. We're done here, Brandon. Stay away from me. Or what? You'll call the police? Get me sent back to jail? He laughed, bitter and harsh. Go ahead. At this point, I don't even care anymore. You've already taken everything else. I got in my car and locked the doors, my hands shaking as I started the engine. Brandon just stood there, watching me with that same entitled expression he'd worn his whole life, like the world owed him something, like I owed him something. I drove away, calling Lucas the second I was clear of the parking lot. He was waiting for me at my car, stayed exactly 500 feet away, but he clearly planned it. I could hear the tremor in my own voice. This is just the beginning, isn't it? He's going to keep pushing. Send me the recording. I'll file a motion citing intimidation tactics. Even if he's technically in compliance with the distance requirement, his intent is clear. Lucas sounded tired. I'm sorry, Sophia. I know this isn't what you signed up for. None of this is what I signed up for, I said. But here we are. That night, Jesse found me on the balcony again, wrapped in a blanket despite the warm evening. He didn't say anything, just sat beside me and handed me a glass of wine. What if it never ends? I asked quietly. What if Brandon keeps pushing, keeps finding ways to stay just inside the legal boundaries while making my life hell? What if my parents keep trying to guilt me through relatives? What if this is just my life now? Then we deal with it, Jesse said simply. Together, for as long as it takes. You didn't sign up for this either. No, but I signed up for you. And this comes with you right now. He took my hand. Look, I'm not going to lie and say this isn't hard. It is. But you're not the villain here, Sophia. They are. And eventually they'll either accept that or they won't. Either way, you keep living your life. What if I can't? What if they've already won by making me constantly look over my shoulder? Constantly afraid, then they haven't won. Because you're still standing. You're still fighting. You're still here. Jesse squeezed my hand. Fear is temporary, but what you did, holding them accountable, that's permanent. That matters. I wanted to believe him. God, I wanted to believe him. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. You're going to regret this. All of this. Just wait. I showed it to Jesse, who immediately took the phone and forwarded it to Lucas. See, I said, my voice hollow. It's never going to end. But then something shifted inside me, a resolve I didn't know I had. You know what? I stood up, taking my phone back from Jesse. Fine. Let them keep coming. Let Brandon send his threatening texts. Let Mom show up at my building. Let the whole family call me a monster. I don't care anymore. Sophia. No, I mean it. I felt suddenly lighter, like I'd been carrying a weight I hadn't even realized was there. I spent 30 years carrying what they thought, trying to earn their approval, trying to be good enough. And it was never enough. I was never Brandon. I was never the one they chose. So why am I still trying? Jesse stood too, a slow smile spreading across his face. There she is. There who is. The woman who pressed charges. The woman who stood in that courthouse and didn't back down. The woman who chose herself. He pulled me into a hug. I was wondering when she'd come back. And just like that, the fear dissolved, replaced by something harder, colder, more certain. They wanted war? Fine. They'd get war. But this time, I wasn't going to be the one who lost. 6 months later, I was sitting in a deposition room with Lucas, watching my parents' lawyer try one more time to reduce the restitution payments. My clients are experiencing severe financial hardship, the lawyer was saying, shuffling through papers. Mr. Reynolds can only work part-time due to his medical condition. Mrs. Reynolds is working 2 jobs to make ends meet. The current payment structure is simply unsustainable. Lucas didn't even look up from his notes. Your clients committed fraud and forgery. The restitution amount was court-ordered and already represents a significant reduction from what they actually owe my client when you factor in years of financial exploitation. Financial exploitation is a strong term. Is it? Lucas slid a folder across the table. Because we have documentation going back 12 years showing a pattern of unauthorized use of my client's credit, forged signatures on loans, and outright theft totaling well over $30,000. The current restitution only covers the vehicle. The lawyer paled, flipping through the folder. I'd given Lucas everything: bank statements, credit card records, loan documents, every single time my parents had taken from me, all neatly documented and organized. We could pursue additional criminal charges, Lucas continued casually, or we could leave the restitution agreement as is. Your client's choice. The meeting ended 20 minutes later with no modifications to the payment plan. In the parking lot, Lucas turned to me with a rare smile. That felt good. It really did, I agreed. My phone rang. Jasmine. Turn on Channel 7, now. I pulled up the news app on my phone, and there it was. Brandon, arrested again. Public intoxication, disorderly conduct, and violation of probation. The footage showed him being led away in handcuffs, screaming about how it wasn't his fault, how the cops were harassing him, how his sister had ruined his life. He's going back to prison, Lucas said, reading over my shoulder. Probation violation means his original sentence gets reinstated, plus whatever new charges they add. I watched the video again. Brandon, red-faced and furious, blaming everyone but himself. I should feel something, I said. Satisfaction, vindication, something. But I just feel tired. That's normal. You've been in survival mode for months. Lucas closed his laptop. But Sophia, you won. Your parents are paying restitution. Brandon's going back to jail. The restraining order holds. You won. Had I? It didn't feel like winning. It felt like I'd scorched the earth and was standing in the ashes, alone. Except I wasn't alone. Jesse was waiting at my apartment with dinner. Jasmine called every day to check in. Joseph at work had become a surprising ally. I had people, even if they weren't the family I'd been born with. That weekend, I went to brunch with Jasmine and her girlfriend, Amy. Yes, the same Amy who'd been on my parents' side initially, but had switched teams after Brandon's parking lot meltdown went viral. Your mom tried to add me on Facebook, Amy said, stabbing her pancakes. Sent me this long message about family loyalty and forgiveness. I blocked her. She's getting desperate, Jasmine observed. The restitution payments are killing them. Good, I said, and I meant it. They thought they could steal from me and face no consequences. They were wrong. Amy looked at me curiously. Do you ever wonder if you went too far? Every day, I admitted, but then I remembered that they went too far first. I'm just the one who stopped accepting it. My phone buzzed. An email from my building manager. Your name was removed from the directory per your request. Also, a woman matching your mother's description attempted to gain access yesterday, claiming to have a package for you. She was turned away. Security has her photo flagged. I showed the email to Jasmine, who let out a low whistle. She's really not giving up. She can't afford to. If I forgive them, maybe I'll drop the restitution claim. Maybe I'll give them money. Maybe things will go back to how they were. I deleted the email. But that's never happening. What if your dad has another heart attack? Amy asked. What if something happens and you never get the chance to reconcile? I'd thought about this a lot over the past months. The what ifs, the maybes, the possibility that I'd regret this someday. Then I'll regret it, I said finally. But I'll regret it knowing I stood up for myself. That I didn't let them use me anymore. That I chose my own well-being over their comfort, and I can live with that. 3 months later, I was promoted at work. Senior marketing director, corner office, significant raise. Joseph took me out to celebrate, and over expensive cocktails, he asked the question everyone was dancing around. Are you happy? I thought about it, really thought about it. I'm free, I said. And that's better than happy. But are you lonely? Sometimes. But I was lonely before too. At least now I'm lonely on my own terms. He nodded slowly. For what it's worth, I think you did the right thing. What they did to you was wrong and you held them accountable. That takes courage. Or coldness, I said, echoing what half the internet had called me after Brandon's courthouse video. Sometimes they're the same thing. Jesse proposed 2 weeks later. Nothing dramatic, just the two of us in my apartment, him on one knee with his grandmother's ring, asking if I wanted to build a life together. I said yes without hesitation. You know your family won't come to the wedding, he said later that night. Both of us curled up on the couch. I know, and I'm okay with that. I looked at the ring on my finger, simple and beautiful. I'll have Jasmine and Joseph and the family I've chosen. That's enough. What about your parents? Will you send them an invitation? I thought about Mom and Dad, struggling under restitution payments, watching their golden child rot in prison, finally facing the consequences of decades of enabling. No, I said. They're not part of my life anymore. They haven't been for a while. The wedding just makes it official. Brandon sent a letter from prison. It was waiting for me at Lucas's office. Apparently, he'd figured out he couldn't send it directly to me because of the restraining order, but lawyer addresses were public record. Lucas handed it to me with raised eyebrows. You don't have to read it. I know, but I opened it anyway. The letter was 3 pages long, handwritten in Brandon's sloppy script. It started with accusations. How I'd destroyed the family, ruined his life, turned into someone he didn't recognize. Then it shifted to pleading. Couldn't I see how much everyone was suffering? Couldn't I find it in my heart to forgive? The last page was different. Smaller handwriting, like he'd written it in a different mindset. You were always the strong one, it said. I knew it, even when we were kids. You were smarter, harder working, more capable. And I hated you for it, because no matter what I did, I could never measure up. So I stopped trying. I let Mom and Dad clean up my messes. I let them steal from you to bail me out. I let it happen because it was easier than admitting I was the weak one. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I don't deserve it. I just thought you should know that you were right. About all of it. And I'm sorry it took prison for me to see it. I read it 3 times, looking for manipulation, for the angle. But it just sounded tired. Honest, maybe, in a way Brandon had never been before. What are you going to do? Lucas asked. Nothing, I said, folding the letter and putting it back in the envelope. He's sorry? Great. He should be. But sorry doesn't undo the damage. It doesn't give me back the years of being second place. It doesn't erase the fraud. You're not even going to write back? What would I say? Thanks for the apology, see you never? I handed the envelope back to Lucas. He made his choices. I made mine. We're done. Jesse and I got married on a Saturday in May, surrounded by friends and chosen family. Jasmine was my maid of honor. Joseph walked me down the aisle. There wasn't a single blood relative in attendance, and I didn't miss them for a second. At the reception, Jasmine pulled me aside. "I'm proud of you, for building this, for not caving. Some people would say I'm heartless. Some people are wrong." She squeezed my hand. "You set boundaries and enforce them. That's not heartless. That's healthy." That night, lying in bed next to my husband, I thought about my old life. The one where I bent over backward for people who never appreciated it. The one where I was always trying to earn love that was freely given to Brandon without him having to try. I didn't miss it. Not even a little. 2 years later, I was in my office when Lucas called. "Your father passed away. Heart attack. Anna wanted me to inform you." I sat very still, phone pressed to my ear. "When?" "3 days ago. The funeral is tomorrow." "I won't be attending." "I figured, but I wanted you to know." Lucas paused. "Are you okay?" Was I? My father was dead. The man who taught me to ride a bike, who helped with homework, who also chose Brandon over me 1,000 times. Gone. "I will be," I said. Jesse came home to find me on the balcony, my thinking spot, a glass of wine in hand. "Lucas called you," he said. It wasn't a question. Dad died. He sat beside me, quiet and solid. "How do you feel?" "Sad, relieved, guilty about being relieved." I took a sip of wine. "Is that terrible?" "It's honest." We sat in silence for a while. Then, "Are you going to the funeral?" "No. Mom will be there. Brandon might get a compassionate release to attend. The whole family will be there. And they'll all look at me like I killed him." I shook my head. "I can't do it." "You don't have to. Some people would say I should, that it's my last chance to make peace. Some people don't know what you went through," Jesse said firmly. "You don't owe anyone peace except yourself." I didn't go to the funeral. Instead, I went to work, came home, lived my life. And when Anna sent me a scathing email about how my absence had devastated my mother, how I'd killed my father with stress, how I was a disgrace to the family name, I deleted it without responding. My mother sent one letter, delivered through Lucas. It was brief. "Your father asked for you at the end. He wanted to apologize, to make things right. You denied him that. I hope you can live with yourself. I never want to hear from you again. You're no daughter of mine." I read it once, then put it in a folder with all the other documentation. Evidence of who they were, who they'd always been. People who blamed me for their choices right up until the end. "You're no daughter of mine," I repeated to Jesse that night. Like that's supposed to hurt. Like I didn't cut them off first. Does it hurt? A little, I admitted. But mostly I just feel free. She said the quiet part loud. I was never really their daughter. Not the way Brandon was their son. And now it's official. 5 years after pressing charges, I was sitting in my home office. Jesse and I had bought a house in the suburbs, complete with a garden and a room we were planning to turn into a nursery, when Jasmine called. "You're going to want to sit down for this." I'm already sitting. Brandon died, overdose. He'd been out for 6 months, violated probation again, went back in, got out on parole last month and apparently fell back into old habits. Jasmine's voice was gentle. Anna just posted about it on Facebook. My brother was dead. My baby brother, who I'd protected and defended and enabled until I finally couldn't anymore. Gone. "Sophia? You still there?" "Yeah, I'm here." I felt nothing. No grief, no satisfaction, just numbness. "How's Mom?" According to the post, she's devastated, blaming the system, the prison, the lack of support for addicts. Jasmine paused. "She didn't mention you." Of course not. Because then she'd have to admit that maybe, just maybe, all that enabling didn't help him. That maybe consequences earlier might have saved his life. You don't really believe that. Don't I? I stared out the window at the garden Jesse had planted. Brandon had chances. So many chances. We all gave him chances. But he kept choosing the easy way out. And eventually, that caught up with him. After I hung up, I sat in my office for a long time, thinking about Brandon as a kid, always getting into trouble, always being bailed out, thinking about the man he'd become, entitled and angry and ultimately self-destructive. Jesse found me there an hour later. Jasmine called me. "I'm so sorry, Sophia." "Are you?" "He tried to destroy my life. He threatened me. He made the past 5 years a nightmare." But my voice cracked on the last word. "And he was still your brother," Jesse said gently, pulling me into a hug. "It's okay to grieve him, even after everything." So I did. I cried for the brother I'd wanted him to be, for the relationship we never had, for the family that could have been if anyone had been brave enough to enforce consequences years ago. But I didn't go to his funeral either. And I didn't send flowers or condolences or anything at all, because some bridges once burned stay burned, and that's okay. Present day. I'm 35 years old, married to a man who thinks I hung the moon, with a baby daughter sleeping upstairs and another on the way. I have a successful career, genuine friendships, and a life I've built on my own terms. My mother is alive somewhere, probably still blaming me for everything. The extended family stopped reaching out years ago. The restitution was paid in full 18 months ago. Mom refinanced everything she had left to clear the debt early, probably hoping it would make me reach out. It didn't. Sometimes I think about them, about what my life would look like if I'd forgiven them, if I'd dropped the charges, if I'd been the bigger person everyone expected me to be. And I'm grateful I didn't. Because that version of me would still be cleaning up Brandon's messes, still being stolen from, still being second choice, still setting myself on fire to keep them warm. This version of me gets to be happy, gets to be free, gets to choose herself every single day. Jasmine asked me once if I regretted any of it. "No," I said without hesitation. "I regret that it had to happen. I regret that they chose to steal from me. I regret that my family valued Brandon more than me. But I don't regret standing up for myself. I don't regret the consequences they earned. And I don't regret choosing my own peace over their comfort. Even though it cost you your family." I looked at Jesse playing with our daughter, at the life we'd built, at the family I'd chosen. "I didn't lose my family," I said. "I lost people who were related to me. There's a difference." And there is. My daughter will grow up knowing her worth, knowing that love doesn't mean accepting abuse, knowing that family is about respect and reciprocity, not obligation and guilt. She'll grow up watching her mother set boundaries and enforce them, watching her mother choose herself without apology. And maybe, just maybe, she'll never have to learn the hard way that sometimes the most loving thing you can do is walk away. I used to wonder if I'd regret my choices when I was older, if I'd look back and wish I'd forgiven them, reconciled, played happy family. But I'm older now, and all I feel is relief. Relief that I'm free, that my children are protected, that the cycle of enabling and dysfunction died with Brandon. Some people call me cold, heartless, a daughter who let her father die without reconciliation, who skipped her brother's funeral, who cut off her mother without a second thought. Let them talk. They don't know what it took to set myself free. They don't know the years of therapy, the nights of doubt, the constant second-guessing of whether I'd made the right choice. But I did make the right choice. For me, for my family, for the life I wanted to build. And I'd do it all over again in a heartbeat. Because revenge isn't about destruction. It's about refusing to be destroyed. And I refused. I'm still refusing, and I always will.